Welcome to Streamline, where we help simplify success. My name's Holly Nixon, marketing manager here at Streamline. Guys, we are on our third episode. If you are enjoying these episodes, please make sure you subscribe, like, follow, get involved in the conversation. Today, I'm joined by Rob. Welcome from IFZA.
Thank you.
And Rob, we've got so many questions to get through today, particularly around Dubai, which I love Dubai. So many questions. I've personally wanted to move there myself, take business. So I feel like we can get right into the depth of it.
Let's go.
But first, tell me a little bit about yourself and your business.
Sure. So you mentioned already, my name is Rob. I'm a client engagement manager. I work at IFZA. We are based in Dubai. We're the largest free zones in Dubai. We've been operating for a number of years, since 2017. And we service clients from all over the world who wish to open, expand, or relocate their business into the UAE. And then support them through their journey. Amazing.
And I'm assuming you live over there half the time.
I do. I live over there full time, actually. Okay. So Friday was 4 years to the day that I moved over.
Nice.
But I've been in and out of Dubai since 2015, doing a lot of business, previous roles. And yeah, I think it's just one of those places. It's really exciting to be, weather aside as well. You know, It's not just the weather, but I just think the whole kind of energy and vibe of the city is really exciting.
When you initially moved over there, like, how did you kind of blend into it? Did you find it a struggle initially?
No, so yes and no. So I went over with my previous company, tail end of COVID, and we opened up a kind of branch of our company in a free zone. It was a different free zone, and the process took a long time, a lot longer than it should have. And I just felt the kind of communication and process was not what I expected, certainly coming from here with service. And then when I was leaving that company, I saw IFZA and I knew who they were. It wasn't the free zone I opened in, but I knew who they were, and I met with their team, and they just kind of showed me a slightly different route and a process and approach. And I really liked that. And so for me, it was just like, great, this is a wonderful opportunity to come on board, help people from English speaking countries, mainly the UK, Ireland, America, who wish to move into the UAE, and kind of guide them through that process clearly.
And we've just mentioned about me getting the itch to go to Dubai. Yeah. Let's get straight into it. What do you think, or why are so many UK entrepreneurs considering Dubai? What's the pull?
Yeah, so I think Dubai has kind of gone through a bit of a transformation. Mm-hmm. Corporate tax was introduced not long ago, and a lot of people left Dubai because they said, it's supposed to be tax-free, and it is what it is.
Okay.
But then you tend to see people who are really serious about their business and serious about their life wanting to be there because, one, corporate tax is still really attractive in terms of a number. Income tax is 0, year-round sunshine. English is spoken as a main language in most places. Massively diverse, multicultural society, but also still enough home comforts to feel like home in many ways. I remember sitting in my office, in my desk, watching the budget in October and just shaking my head, growing up very much Labour leaning and kind of going, oof, the UK is not in a great spot.
Yeah.
And then I remember watching the UAE budget a couple of days around that and seeing massive money into infrastructure and growth and kind of promoting entrepreneurs and promoting business. And I think that alone was the main reason so many people are kind of going, Dubai is a wonderful opportunity. Simple business practices, easy to open, very, very global. You're literally the center of the world. Yeah. So that also helps. And I just think there's a lot of security that goes with that as well.
I love that. I didn't know about the corporation tax though, I must admit. What's the
So it's 9%.
Okay.
So it's on
still 10% less than over here.
Exactly, right. So it's you've got your first 375,000 dirham in profit, completely tax free. And then after that it's 9%. So one, it's a really simple structure. I think that helps a lot of people. VAT is set at 5%. And again, that depends on certain goods and services, and income tax is 0%. I think it just makes it really appealing when you're trying to plan a business. You get to understand all of those costs nice and early, and you can really begin to plan how your business is going to be successful versus here in the UK where it can be a little bit more convoluted at times.
And it changes all the time,
exactly.
Right? And actually that was one of my questions because I was under the assumption that there was no tax. So I was going to say to you, like, you almost feel with Dubai sometimes, is it a case where they're going to bring all of these businesses in, these families, and then all of a sudden it's like, surprise, here's a 20% tax. But do you think that's something that could happen?
So obviously it's my personal opinion.
Yes,
right?
Yeah.
I think tax will come in at some point. What that tax is, whether it's purely related to business, whether it becomes income tax, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But I think Dubai has moved in the last 10 to 15 years away from this need to attracting global talent to build their infrastructure to actually saying we have an infrastructure that rivals all of the biggest cities in the world.
Yeah.
So at what point should they not consider, and again, personal opinion only, what point should they not consider saying, well, actually, guys, public services, taxation would be a good thing. You know, I'd be quite happy in the UAE to spend some money on tax. To help some of those services because you have more transparency there. And again, the other big difference is, and without getting political in any sense, Dubai has a 10 to 20 year vision at any given time, right? It's really difficult in this country to have that when you have a government for 4 years, right? And that's no fault of anybody specifically, but it helps a little bit. When you look at D33, the kind of, I don't want to say regeneration, but the next phase of growth for Dubai, which is focused on urban planning and infrastructure, it's really easy to implement that across the whole city and everybody pulls in the same direction. The UK sadly still feels like you've got people trying to pull in different directions.
Absolutely.
And I don't think we've ever seen the UK as fractured as it is now. Dubai doesn't suffer that problem.
Yeah. And everybody talks about global business. Do you think the UAE really is the future? Like we've said, it's very centered. Do you think it's only going one way for the UAE?
Of course, I'm going to be biased because I live there. Yes, absolutely, I do. I think it offers a real global outlook. I think corporate tax has actually been really positive for global business. You know, I was one of those people that said corporate tax is a good thing because what it does is it gives business a degree of security that everything you're doing is completely above board and, you know, it's open to scrutiny without any kind of undertones of anything else happening. So I think corporate tax has been positive for that reason.
When did that come in?
It's about 18 months ago.
Oh, okay.
But it's still sort of being rolled out. The government are being really understanding on extensions for submissions.
Yeah.
And, you know, again, it's a sensible rollout. You know, like every country will have things that roll out and the kind of people miss it or they're not sure about it. There is a sensible kind of overview, which I really appreciate in the country.
And what was the initial feedback? I mean, tax for most is never a great thing. No one's going to jump about it, but you're very understanding about it. You've come from the UK. We know sometimes we have to pay our way, especially when you have a place like Dubai. Very clean, very safe, great weather. Not that that counts, but just it helps. But when you look at it as a package, I would feel like, do you know what? I'm happy to pay that tax. I'd even be happy to pay the UK rate over there because of the way the living standards.
Let's kind of answer the question. Look, I think I'll preface it by saying it's not for everybody. I'll kind of feed into a slightly different kind of angle there. The UK media isn't always very positive about Dubai. And then I speak to a lot of people. And so a couple of years ago, when I was talking to people about Dubai, when I first started at IFZA in 2023, they were saying, why would I go there? I can't do anything. And you're like, okay, it's not accurate. And then last year, it softened more and more, right? And then when you come into the kind of mentality locally for tax there, so kind of feeding back into that, and you're mentioning about being willing to pay UK tax. I think a lot of people from European nations would be willing to pay some degree of tax. Because one, it is most likely, if it ever comes in, going to be lower than what they pay in their home country. Period, right? But then those people who complained about it are people who are jumping around, in most cases, trying to avoid tax. So they have no loyalty or affinity to Dubai in the first place. So you would ask the question, were they contributing to Dubai anyway, or were they just using it as a place to park their money without paying tax, perhaps? I think a lot of people who are there have said, we just want to see infrastructure improvements and we're okay with this corporate tax element. We understand what's happening. We're seeing that. And I think we'll see that roll out over the next couple of years with really ambitious projects. And it's not just building the next kind of Guinness World Record skyscraper, right? It's actually having a livable, walkable, breathable city that you can enjoy. And that's where Dubai is trying to move towards. And I just think it's exciting.
Yeah, it is, because what else is going to be able to come off the back of that? I mean, government's invested millions, billions, most likely.
You even look at Etihad Rail and that kind of expansion to be able to have rail travel across all of the GCC countries and connecting them. I think you're going to see that whole region become stronger. And Dubai is definitely at the forefront. The UAE is at the forefront of that. And it has been for a while. I don't see that changing.
Interesting. So we've talked on UK tax, fun. Do you think, looking from the outside in, I guess now, do you think there's chance for the little guys anymore over here as business owners?
I think it's getting increasingly tough, is what it seems like. I don't ever want to be kind of final in what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I think it's really hard nowadays. in any aspect. It's not just for business, even for personal, for, buying a house here.
Yeah.
It's extremely difficult. It doesn't feel like the government, in whatever guise they're in, whatever political party, is trying to help the independent businesses as much as they could or should, or perhaps want to even. I don't know whether that's bureaucracy or systems that have been set up in a way that are just not smart. But I definitely think it's a lot harder to thrive here. And what we're seeing is a lot of people saying, actually, I want to split my time. I want to be in Dubai for 6-7 months a year. But then also, I'm probably going to move there in the next 2 to 3 years. So let's start my company with you. Let's go through it and kind of explore the market. We're seeing lots of people do that. I mean, millionaire migration last year, I'm sure you'll have seen those numbers. It was an estimated just under 7,000 millionaires leaving the UK. A lot of them, I think it was 10,000 leaving the UK and maybe 7,000 millionaires migrating into Dubai, which sounds great, right?
But this is a massive part of the problem because we lose the money in the economy, right?
Exactly, right? But then what you also have, and what I was seeing far more of, is a lot of small 1 and 2 shareholder ownership companies moving to Dubai, even more than the millionaires, right? We're seeing that. So you can have that millionaire's playground and drive around in your Lamborghinis and Ferraris.
Yeah.
Of course you have that in Dubai. But you also have that in central London. So, people that kind of put that view out, I think is a little bit disparaging in some ways. What I'm seeing is real people wanting to build a life and build a business and then wanting to move to Dubai to do that. I don't have all of the answers of why, but when I talk to them, they say that it's just too difficult in the UK at this moment in time.
Yeah, I hear you. There's so many businesses, from your one-man bands to your small coffee shops, and it's just so sad to see, and it's quite concerning to think, where are we going to be in 5 years?
Yeah, very much so.
And then what does the government have to try to tax, What does the process look like then? Say a business wants to move across to Dubai. How can IFZA help?
Yeah, so in essence, we issue licenses and visas. So we're going to be really clear on what we do and what we don't do. We obviously try to connect people and what they do, and we'll have lots more kind of add-on services as IFZA grows and expands into kind of full-scale business. But right now, let's say you wanted to start your business, we could do the whole process for your business from here. You don't have to go to Dubai until we get through your visa process. And then once you do that, we apply for your e-visa. So it's for a visa in residency. And then you come across, you do your medical, biometrics, Emirates ID typing. And then you need to be in the country for about 7 days at that period of time in order to complete your residency. And as long as you're within the country once every 6 months, your residency remains active. You can open your bank accounts. So for those people who perhaps are not ready to be there full time just yet, it does give that freedom and flexibility. There are double taxation agreements in place with the UK. Obviously, consult with a tax lawyer in both countries. It's really important. We don't deal with that. But it's considerably flexible and very easy to set up. And that's what's most important.
It's really impressive. Like, it just takes out all of the stress, and actually it makes me want to move over even more. I mean, what's the turnaround time on something like that? It's impressive. It's
pretty quick. It's about 10 to 12 business days to do all of the business aspect of it. And then roughly 7 to 10 days for visa process. I mean, that's right now during Ramadan. We're all on reduced hours at the moment.
So even that's amazing.
Yeah, it's really nice. We're doing 2 hours less per day, both public and private sector, which is government mandated. All companies are on board. So again, the idea of labor laws and how does that work? UAE has a very comprehensive labor law structure. Even in free zones, there are slightly altered or versions of it. But again, all of our staff, all of our team, and all across the city, people have that reduced hours, whether you're Muslim or not. Again, it's just designed, and all policies in the UAE, especially Dubai, are designed for its residents. That's what's really important. And when you have a 80% expat population, they're very well aware of who their residents are, and they cater to their residents, which is what I think is something that's really underrated there.
Yeah, that's really impressive. And actually what we all just want to be able to feel appreciated, right?
Absolutely.
How can IFZA help with regards to selling across GCC, and if it can help to boost UK businesses at all? Yeah,
so I think we're really active here. It's one of our largest markets in terms of shareholders coming from the UK to the UAE. In terms of across GCC, by having a business in Dubai, first and foremost, if you're trying to operate across the region, they're going to have considerable security in that as well. So there was this kind of old adage, especially with real estate, of, you can put your money into Dubai from the UK and it's a black hole and it disappears. people don't perhaps understand that also works the other way of people putting their money into the UK from the UAE and it disappearing equally. So having that company set up in Dubai, one, gives people across the region a sense of presence, which is really important. But then also it just gives them that extra security when it comes to financial kind of aspects of it as well. So IFZA can support with that. Again, we work really closely with business councils and groups across the world, of course, across the region as well. And then we're plugged into lots of different kind of aspects of tech and IT and holding companies. So it's really important. In terms of for businesses from the UK, we are companies like Streamline. We're working with our British Chamber of Commerce. We're doing a lot of new relationships over the last 8 to 12 months for sure, where we are trying to find a better way to control that flow and support people both ways. So we have a wide network of business or professional partners that we work with. I mean, we are primarily a B2B free zone. So we work with your lawyers, your tax consultants, your accountants, your auditors. Automatically, when a client comes to us and says we're starting our company, we can plug them into 2,000 global, reputable professional services.
Wow.
I think that's really important for us as well.
That's incredible to hear. And how does business in Dubai differ to business in the UK?
It's really interesting. So when I was doing business in Dubai from the UK, you would often kind of go, oh, that meeting was great. And you think you're on the cusp of something and then it doesn't happen. And you're like, well, what happened, right? And there's a lot of... It's very different to the UK, right? I sold all around the world, and it's very much like the kind of Eastern aspect of you don't speak negatively. But then also there are moments where things are done almost immediately. I think relationships between people is the most important thing, first and foremost. That's what matters. There is glitz and glam, of course there is. There are cowboys everywhere, right? It happens. But you've got a lot of good people who can back up what they're saying. And then as long as you seem to know what you're doing and then you can prove it, in most cases, you'll be fine. You still have to watch out for people. Of course you do. But Dubai as a government, really hot on paying attention to make sure people are regulated and are actually doing it without tying them up in red tape. So I think that's important.
And with the UK, do you find that people just sit on the discussions, don't really do much, very much give it the talk, but people don't want to walk the walk after? Yeah,
it can be. I think, look, Dubai can be similar to some degree. You've got to meet with the right people, I think, in any country. But what I tend to find is people in the UAE and across the region are more willing to say yes and move forward or thrash out those difficult conversations in the right way. Perhaps a little bit more in the UK. I think there's a mentality aspect. So for me, one of the key things for Dubai was that the British mentality goes back a long way. And as an Irish person growing up here, I always know what it was like to be on the outside anyway.
Right.
It was very much, you're not allowed to be too happy, was what it felt like the vibe was here at times. In the UAE, everyone wants to succeed. So their whole approach is, just go for it, just succeed. And I really enjoy that mentality. And it feels like a bubble at times, and it is. But if you're on the inside of it, it can be a really good bubble to be in.
It's really interesting you say that. So I've got two friends that have moved over to Dubai last year. He set up like a crypto bank business, set up in London, worked around Mayfair area, and he did really, really well with it. But there was something that said, I need to go to Dubai. And I cannot tell you, I've been watching his journey every day across his socials. Since he's been in Dubai, his business has exploded. And he just said it's very, very simple. Business in Dubai is very much built around like relationships.
Absolutely.
Like, yeah, you won't get the business straight away, but give them like 3 or 4 meets. But when people do say yes, they're there to sign on the dotted line. Your own reputation a lot. Yeah. Which is really important. Yeah. And just to, kind of repeat on what you just said about like, there's something in the UK where people don't like to see you have success. Sadly, I don't know what it is. It's just, but yeah, he's absolutely fine. I just think it's we're all in this together mentality. Yeah. And, people underestimate the weather of it, right? Like I'm from a cold country. I cannot handle 45-degree heat. And people go, how do you survive in the summer? And I'm like, the same way I survive in the winter in London. It's the same thing. You just have the opposite, right? We just use aircon, and here we use heating, right? It's the same concept. Yeah. Nobody's going outside running at midday in 45-degree heat, just as nobody's going, well, some people are, but most people are not going jogging in -3, right? It's the same kind of concept. So I do think that mentality is we're all in it together. Yeah. I think in the UAE, it's very similar. It just, the perception is a little bit different of
not we're all in it together, let's make it worse, but we're all in it together. Let's just try and make something better. I've likened it to SimCity before, whether it's a terrible analogy, but I really like that because my kind of view is if you have a vision and you can back it up, you'll be supported and you'll find people there who are willing to go for it. Here, it feels like you have to go through a lot more phases to try and get to that process. And it seems to be more people are trying to bat you backwards or knock you down from it. Again, that's just my personal experience of seeing it. I don't experience that in the UAE.
I heard something actually on the news the other day. Somebody from the US was just saying they felt like the UK, you have to jump so many hoops and then you'll get through 10 hoops and then they'll push you back 5. Whereas again, even in, America, they felt like it was a lot easier. So it's just something about the UK. Is it the weather? I don't know. If it's cloudy, it does put me down. I just need a bit of sun if it was that easy. Okay. So what, if you're unable to relocate to Dubai, for me, example, I've got a little boy over here, not with his dad, would love to be in Dubai, but it's just not the case for me. How can UK startups still benefit from Dubai?
I think if you can't base there and you can't kind of relocate there for whatever reason that might be, right? I still think working with companies based there can be really helpful. Partnering up perhaps with a company could be really useful. Look, even if you can't necessarily go there, we're in a position now where you can hire quality staff because again, that kind of level has gone up so much from the base level of where it was of just like, we need to build this infrastructure to actually, we have an established market and we're no longer bribing top talent to come here. They are here already and they are all ready to go. So for something like that, you could easily start a branch of your company or a different version of your company and hire somebody there, right? If you want to take that plunge or just work locally within the market. I think it unlocks, if there's a really good example, the UAE unlocks 2.3 billion consumers. That perhaps the UK and Europe are not really getting to when you look further east. Now, those are people who are either wealthy or coming into wealth over the next couple of years. They're an untapped potential market. And having somebody based in that region, if it's not yourself, who can either unlock those doors or connect with those people, you can see what the potential is for a UK business.
Hence why my banker friend went to Dubai. It makes so much sense. I mean, my next question was going to be, is expansion to Dubai a no-brainer? But I feel like you've just answered that. It's a no-brainer.
I think so. Personally, again, I'm biased, but I think so.
So what's the catch to move into Dubai? We've talked about how great the weather is. We've talked a little bit about the tax. Yes, everyone has to have a bit of tax. We've talked about the wealth there, the open opportunity. Would you say there is anything that they don't tell you?
Yeah, it's really hard to leave. Because you don't want to come back. Quality of life, like, again, your money on an average salary, if you had the same average salary there as you do here in terms of your earnings, your quality of life there is going to be so much better. And I understand for people like yourself and lots of people I speak to who say, well, my roots are tied to the UK. I completely understand that, right? But if you have flexibility or a desire to travel a little bit more and you want that infrastructure and you want that security that perhaps you might not get in some countries or a lot cheaper, that safety aspect, Dubai is a brilliant place. 1, to raise a family. 2, to build a business. 3, to live. And 4, to look at expanding your business. So I can't see a catch. And
actually, let's just touch on families if you don't mind. There might be people listening to this that are thinking of moving over to Dubai. Family is obviously a big thing with children in schools. Like, how easy is that for them to get into schools? Is it quite complex?
It can be at times. I think the biggest barrier is cost. Education can be quite expensive. It depends on what you want, like anywhere, right? But again, if I look at education and healthcare, they're 2 probably big costs alongside rent. Healthcare less so. But if you want your child to be in a school that looks like the best universities in the world with the best kind of conditions, you're probably going to be willing to pay for that, right? And when you compare it to here, it's considerably cheaper. Right. It's just when you compare it to sending them to a state school here, there are differences, right? Again, we're talking over 200 nationalities in the UAE, so you have lots of different curriculums. You have American, French, German, Indian, British, European, international. In general, you have those. It's completely up to you and what you want. I definitely advise anybody to look into it and research it before you make that move because it could be expensive. But if you want your child to be picked up in the morning on their school bus and dropped off and you want them to have, like I say, I remember speaking with a school before I worked at IFZA and I was at a previous company. They gave me a tour and they showed me their music studio and we were talking £500,000 worth of equipment in there for kids who are 5 and 6, teaching them how to properly video edit and record and sound record. And classes were 10 to 12 students rather than 30 students. And you had full playgrounds. Every school has a massive football pitch and multiple swimming pools. And you see the kind of extracurricular activities. Look, my daughter, I have a young daughter. I'm super excited for her to experience that in the future, hopefully. I just think it's a completely different world. But in terms of families, there are lots of communities there. It's not just influencers drinking champagne every weekend. I mean, you can find that, sure. But again, you have the mountains in Hatta. You can drive to Ras Al Khaimah, which is an hour and a half away. So you have that experience. You have the beach. You have the desert. You have lots of activities and education all over. It's definitely a place for families. I think people sometimes misconstrue that as a kind of party destination.
Absolutely. But my friends that I said had moved over there actually took their brother and wife, and they have 2 little ones. And just even seeing how much they've grown. What I will say about Dubai from my own experience is they just seem to have the best of everything. If you walk into a restaurant or a Japanese restaurant, you're going to have Japanese people cooking it. Same with Italian, same with service. Everything is just 10/10. So I don't disbelieve you for a second when it comes down to the schools. And
well, you're going to find all of the biggest schools that are there either partnered or they've opened something there. Again, Dubai had this kind of idea of imitating for a period of time. That was the perception. First of all, the UAE has a really rich history that people don't realize. It's not, it may have just sprung up as a city 20, 25 years ago, but it's been a trading port for 1,000 years. People ignore that history. And I think, not the UAE, but I think some people locally are kind of going, actually, we should lean on that, right? We've been here for a long time in different guises, and we can attract the best talent and we can attract the best schools, and we are trying to build the best infrastructure. And I think kind of coming back to that question of will it be the future? All of these things are what really make me say yes versus let's have another new shiny building. Of course, you want that as well, but you see so much more behind the scenes. I think that's what's exciting.
Amazing. And work culture. Do they have a 4-day working week?
It depends. It's still a 5-day working week in most cases. Certain companies do have that. It depends, public, private. There are half days. So if you're in government, typically you have half day Fridays, because when you go for Friday prayer, then after that, you typically don't come back. But like I mentioned during Ramadan, everybody has 2 hours less per day for the whole month, 15 days bank holiday on average per year, 25 to 30 day holiday on top of that. So you're looking at 45 days off. Again, there are normally concessions during summer as well. It depends on the company. It depends on the management structure, if I'm really honest. I think some of the questions that have been thrown at Dubai over labor and kind of working culture is changing and improving constantly. And certainly in my 4 years there, but even since 2015 when I first went, it's getting a lot better. Our culture is very similar.
Yeah, I was going to say, do you see much remote work over there? Because I feel like obviously after COVID, big C, we had such a massive change in the UK. But now I'm actually seeing and hearing that the UK remote working is kind of reversing again, back to getting people in the offices, which to me is shocking.
Yeah, I think the UAE is smart about what it does, right? There's always a degree of sense that goes with it, which I think sometimes it feels like it might lack here in some cases. There is remote work. A lot of people are kind of adapting and shifting with that. But the UAE is also a face-to-face market. You're in a region that is very much about face-to-face bricks and mortar still. It has a massive online growth. So the idea is we want to meet people face-to-face because that's how you build relationships. But of course, with things like traffic increasing and more people coming, the UAE is looking and exploring ideas of kind of saying, well, we want your staff to work from home more because we want to ease that congestion, right? So that kind of low congestion working. So I think all of those measures are being reviewed at government level, and then at company level, it's very sensible in the way we work. And it's the way we try to encourage our companies who start with us of saying like, maybe you don't need an office, until you hit a certain point, it might not be necessary. Some activities you do, of course, you need that when, if you need that, but if you can work a little bit freely, why not? Why not go and work in a cafe somewhere in Jumeirah? Why not go and build a relationship somewhere else? Because you're also going to get out and connect with people, especially at that early phase of a business. You need to be out and connecting. And Dubai is a great place for networking. I tell people if you're good at networking or, you're just confident in what you do enough, you're going to be fine. Yeah. If you struggle with it, you've got to learn that skill before you go there, or you'll learn really hard.
Amazing. And lastly, I actually asked you already, how does IFZA help businesses to relocate? What do you think is the future of IFZA, and how is it going to grow or expand and to be able to help other businesses?
I think what you're going to see, and I'm going to be careful over what I can and can't share, I think you're going to see a massive growth in, essentially at the moment we do visas and licenses, right? That's what I mentioned. You're going to see considerably more than that. You're going to see full 360 integration networks over the coming years. Management are very, very excited. They're very interested in not just acquiring potential businesses, but actually helping them grow and be successful. And I think that's really interesting for me. So you're going to see some developments. You have accelerators, you have those networking events, the marketing. We're looking at lots of different aspects of everything that you might need. And, I will share with IFZA, we do have a wonderful ecosystem already. For example, we have an academy, which is KHDA approved, so directly from the government, for sessions on things like emotional intelligence and how to do public speaking, as well as how to do your corporate tax and your VAT, right? So we already have those things in place. And it's just going to get bigger and broader. And I certainly think IFZA will be at the forefront of that particular sector for doing that for businesses from all over the world.
That's huge. Really, really impressive. Like even to the level of, offering your services to help people with speaking, because there's always culture differences moving around the world and things like that, and to networking and to moving into areas. I think probably a big concern for people moving into a different country is I've got to start with the cold contacts. Like, how am I going to build my business? So that's incredibly impressive. Rob, thank you so much for joining me today. Do I want to move to Dubai more than ever? It has honestly given me a lot to think about. And I know anyone listening to this that has considered moving to Dubai will definitely be considering it this evening and having chats with their partners.
Wonderful.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We'll make sure that if anybody wants to work with you guys, they can click the link on our description or bio. It will also be available on our website, guys. Thank you for listening. I hope this has been an intriguing discussion for you. Definitely has for me. And we will be back in a couple of weeks' time with a new episode. Over and out.
Thank you.
Thank you.